Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast. It's the midweek show, and this week we're going to be looking ahead to Blackburn. We're going to do that a bit later on, but we're going to look a bit back a couple of seasons and looking at Wayne Rooney's tenure at Derby County, both his squads previously. We're looking at the one that got obviously ended up in relegation, no fault of the squads, but obviously the administration and the 12-point deduction and the 21-point deduction, we obviously know how all that went. And then we're looking at also the squad that actually managed to stay up on the final day against Sheffield Wednesday, and do a direct comparison to where our current squad is at that Eustace is trying to perform miracles with. And between myself and the two guests that I have with me, we're going to see if we can make a combined 11 and just see how many of the current squad we would actually pick ahead of those. Because, I mean, one ended up in relegation, one ended up in survival. So what better way with us bottom of the table? So to talk it all through with me, I have a debutant and also another part of the Ramstalk community is coming on again. I've got Nick Drewett. How are you, pal?
I am 4 weeks into a 12-week rehab period on my torn Achilles, and it's still not as painful as Derby.
I mean, it can't really get much worse than that, can you?
Absolutely.
And I've also got Luke Bromage, who's here from his Rams Talk debut. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all right, mate. I thought you were going to say, Nick, you're 4 weeks into a Derby rehab. I thought you were calling it a day. Thought that was it, you were done.
No, not quite, mate. Not quite.
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Trying to be as optimistic as possible, but it's a bit of a slog at the minute.
It is, and obviously it's been a couple of weeks since we have had you on, Nick, and also Luke being the first time. We'll just get how you currently are feeling about the current season before we go into the main topic of the episode, and obviously looking ahead to Blackburn at the end. But yeah, Nick, we're bottom of the table now after the results yesterday evening. Hull getting the win against Plymouth. That obviously does mean now we are bottom of the table, 7 points adrift from safety. I mean, where are you currently at in terms of how you're feeling about how this season's panning out, and obviously looking ahead to the final 11 games?
I mean, the last time I was on was just before we sold Cash, and we were looking at, we're going to get 10 million quid. There's heavy rumours that Warren's going. Eustace wasn't even in the frame, but I was feeling pretty positive at that point. And, you know, despite the slide, the last few weeks, it's just been, every game's just Groundhog Day, isn't it? You know, it's turgid, putting the effort in, not really looking like we're going to score, conceding a late losing goal. Yeah, there's one point where I thought we might be able to 0-0 our way to some kind of survival, but you've got to try and keep some kind of faith, otherwise you'll go mad. But yeah, it's been pretty deflating the last few weeks. Just the nature of the losses, you know, efforts there, but there's absolutely no spark, no creativity. It's difficult to see where the next goal's coming from, let alone a point. But you know, we'll keep going, won't we? We'll keep going. We'll keep watching. We'll keep supporting, because that's who we are.
That is, and obviously we saw, and we're going to be looking at those squads, but what a galvanised fan base can do. One obviously resulted in staying up. Obviously, we weren't there to actually see it, but in terms of the nostalgia behind it, and obviously the one that we did obviously manage to go down. But really, the takeaway from that season was how together the team and the fan base were as one, and that's what we really need to be right now. But look, yeah, where are you at in terms of your thoughts on the current situation? Obviously, coming on our podcast as a debutant, where's your mind at?
Yeah, there's been better times I could have made a debut, haven't there? I think as a fan base as a whole, we're just so desperate for something now, aren't we? Just a goal, just a show of something. I don't think work rate can be questioned, really. But there's only so many times we can have that as the only positive coming out of games. Me and a mate of mine have been saying, you know, we can put it down to individual mistakes or just not getting the run of things, but there's only so many times you can say that before it's just the squad just isn't good enough. I think decisions off, I mean, I know it's been covered a million times on the podcast. I think decisions off the pitch have absolutely killed us this season as well. I think poor decisions being made by not footballing people has kind of set us up for where we are now. I think the sacking of Warren was just the timing of it was absolutely crazy to me. It either needed to be 4 weeks earlier or probably give some time after the window, but I thought it came so late. And yeah, I think we're slowly getting towards just sort of sleepwalking into League One.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting end of the season, and I think, like we've all been discussing on the pod and obviously in our chats, I think the fan base is kind of in one mind that it is going to be a struggle, but we will wait and see. We will see how especially the next couple of games, being the 2 home games, one against Blackburn, one against Coventry. But yes, right, we're going to get into the main crux of the podcast. We're going to be looking and comparing the Derby County current squad to Wayne Rooney's previous 2 squads in the 21-22 season, obviously in the 2020-21 season. So you can play along if you're listening in the car. If you're watching on YouTube, please do get along. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can get in the comments, interact, see what you would do with the squad. So how it's going to play out, we're going to try and do it in a 4-3-3 Derby way, Derby formation that we all know and love. I'd love to see that come back and actually maybe some decent football on with it. But yeah, we're going to use that as a basis, as a formation, and we're going to compare literally direct players from those squads, see how many we'd pick, and see how many of the current squad make it. So we're going to start with the GKs, the goalkeepers. So between the 3 of us, we're going to pick a goalkeeper to be in our combined 11. Now, the ones we've got to choose from, obviously we have Jakob Zetterstrom from the current squads. Now, I would include Josh Vickers, but realistically, is he going to make it? I'm not sure. So we'll use Zetterstrom from the current setup. And then we're looking at also David Marshall. Keller Roos, I will have to include because he did finish that season. And then Ryan Allsop. Yeah, well, we'll have to, because of how we performed towards the end of the season, weren't we? But Keller Roos, David Marshall, Ryan Allsop, and Jakob Zetterstrom. Nick, what's your thoughts with this group?
Thoughts with this group? My thought is on overall potential, and I'd go Zetterstrom. Peak Marshall was really good. Allsop and Roos can be completely discounted for me. They were as bad as each other, and I'll never forgive Keller Roos for Wembley 2019, to be honest. And getting beaten in the air by John McGinn is criminal. But yeah, just Zetterstrom. His kicking is woeful most of the time, but I think as a presence and a shot stopper and the overall potential, he just edges it for me. But I wouldn't argue if you two went Marshall. If either of you go Roos, I'm leaving.
Yeah, I mean, there is probably one name that won't be touching my lips, but I'll leave that to you guys to decide. But yeah, no, I mean, look, David Marshall was a very, very solid goalkeeper in his time. He did arrive, and everyone was looking at his age, but people looked at his caliber in the championship and thought, you know what, he's a solid championship goalkeeper. But yeah, how's he compared to Zetterstrom? Nick's kind of using these two as mainly probably the 2 pillars within the sticks that we're looking at. Where's your mind at with this squad?
Yeah, the other 2, mate. Let's forget them. Let's discard them completely. That's like choosing between getting slapped or getting punched. That's not happening. I think if you're talking, obviously Zetterstrom's not been here long enough. If you're talking who had the best performances, the best peak in a Derbyshire, I think comfortably it's Marshall. I think he came in. He wasn't outstanding, but sometimes that's exactly what you want from a goalkeeper. I think he's at what we needed at the time. As you say, he had championship reputation before him. Zetterstrom, I think, could go to a much higher level than Marshall did in his career. I know he's come under fire last few weeks, but I think especially through the start of the season, I was really impressed with him. So I think based on that, and similar as what Nick said, due to potential, I'd probably lean towards Zetterstrom.
Okay, we've got 2 for Zetterstrom. So even if I did go with Marshall, I would be outvoted. But no, I would probably go Zetterstrom. I think potential is there, obviously asset value going forward, and I do think his shot stopping is probably one of the best I've seen at the club. But I do agree with you, Nick. I think his kicking does need a lot of work moving forward for him to fit in this Eustace team. So we will lock in Jakob Vidal Zetterstrom into our combined 11. So he is the keeper between the sticks for us. So next we're going to look at left back. Now we've got a quite limited from the
very long list.
It's not a very long list in this one. So I mean, yeah, the current squad, you're looking at Craig Forsyth and Callum Elder from the 2021 season. I mean, I'm just looking at this here. You've got Craig Forsyth again, a shock. You've got Lee Buchanan, who could probably be put there. Probably those two, those main two that season. And then the 21-22 season, again, you're going to be shocked. Craig Forsyth made an appearance that season. And then again, Lee Buchanan. So there's three that you're going to be working with, Lee Buchanan, Craig Forsyth, and Callum Elder. That is the three. Nick, take it away.
It's a really easy choice. It's Fozzie all day, every day out of that list. And it's a highlight of how poorly in 5 years we've recruited. Craig Forsyth, for me, can have a contract at Derby for as long as he wants to wear them and be in the squads, be on the training pitch, because the man is a bit of a club icon. But the fact that we haven't got somebody better than Craig Forsyth in 5 years, and he's now 36, and still, for me, the first choice left back is pretty pathetic recruitment wise. But certainly 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, Fozzie all day long.
Yeah, I think I've got to go with you on that. I mean, during those seasons, Lee Buchanan was the starter, and he did really start his Derby career well. Did peter off towards the end, and obviously how he ended his career is less said. But I mean, Callum Elder is another one, Luke, that this season started the season okay, much better than I actually thought he would, because in League One I didn't think he would didn't put up any trees. I thought he started off the season okay, had an injury, and he's come back. And really, if it wasn't without Fozzie not being able to go up and down the wings, I think he wouldn't really be in the starting 11. But what's your thoughts on the three that we're looking at?
Yeah, I think I'm the same as you. Elder surprised me coming into the Championship. I mean, it still is now, but going up, I was screaming for us to go and sign a left back. I thought it had to be a major priority. It still is now. It will be going into next season. Was out with the injury, and I was one of the issues I was saying could potentially be fixed when he returns was left back, and it hasn't happened. It just hasn't happened. I think we can probably disregard Buchanan. I mean, I will admit now I've got a bias because of the way he left. I have got a bias because of the way he left, so I'm happy to disregard him. And I think, as Nick said, if anything's going to highlight how poor the recruitment has been over the last few years, the fact that Forsyth, I think, comfortably still gets into this team as the left back. Not even just this combined 11, but our team going forward this season. He's been a brilliant servant, but at his age, he probably shouldn't be able to just walk into the side as easily as he does. More than happy for him to stay on, as Nick said, as long as he wants. He'll end up a coach at Derby. He'll be here in the next 25 years. I don't think he'll ever leave. But yeah, for this, I'd probably have to go Fozzie. Yeah,
I mean, Nick, would you keep him on next year? Appreciate you said you would give him a contract. Would you do it?
Yeah, I'd give the man a contract for as long as he wants it. I think he's a more than serviceable, particularly at League One level. He's a more than serviceable centre back. And he's shown that on numerous occasions. I mean, that mad run we went on, 21 games unbeaten in the first Warren season, when we were playing a back four of Corey Smith, Cashin, Fozzie, and Louis Sibley. And Fozzie was outstanding as a centre back. Yeah, but for all the nostalgia, I'd still give him another year, because I think he's a good guy around the place. But you know, people can tell me that I'm talking rubbish and it's just nostalgia. But that's my opinion.
Well, because of the two decisions there that have unified with Fozzie, we will put Fozzie into our combined 11. It'll be interesting to see if Buchanan or Callum Elder made anyone else's, but Fozzie is in ours. So now centre backs, obviously being a 4-3-3 formation that we're using, it's going to be two centre halves that we're going to be looking at. So this season, now one that I could probably include is Cashin, but now he's gone. I will not. So between from the 24, I know I've got to be, haven't I? Otherwise, it won't pop off this podcast. Langas, Phillips. I would say Rooney, probably not. So I'm probably going to say Curtis Nelson, Clark, Nat Phillips, and Langas from this current season. You're then looking at Mike Taveric. That's a name blast from the past. You've got Edmondson, Tatum Mengi, Clark again, and Curtis Davis. And then from the 21-22 season, you've got Richard Stearman, Curtis Davis, Erin Cashin. I will have to include, but it'll be from the 21-22 season. It won't be from this current season. So where's your thoughts at with that one? I will go to Luke. What would you think? What's your thoughts?
I think the second one can be up for debate. I think one that, for me, it was the first name I wrote down was Curtis Davis. I think he walked straight in. I think it was it the season we went down? He played every minute of every game. I think it was the season we went down.
That was it.
I was amazed as well. He scored 4 goals that season.
He did, yeah.
I know the header at Reading. I've never celebrated a goal like it. You'd have thought it was a playoff final goal. But the memories from that are ridiculous. But as you, I think you said, Nick, then put the armband on him as well. He walked straight into this team. Ultimate professional, ultimate leader. I think it goes sort of under the radar, well, how good he was defensively when he came in. He came in sort of back end of his career and still had a good few years with us. So yeah, I think he walked straight in.
Nick, obviously we've got Curtis Davis's one shout there. Are you going to echo that, and you're going to throw any other names? No, we need two.
as with Luke, the first person I wrote down was Curtis Davis. Given the armband, he's what we miss terribly in this team, a proper leader. The way in the relegation season that he was the man that came out most of the time and fronted up with it. Him and Rooney were sort of almost a double act, weren't they? In terms of fronting up with the press. Curtis Davis all day long. Captain will be the other one in there for me. Even from that season, I think you can give an honourable mention to Matt Clark. Certainly from the season that we stayed up, 2021. And I think he'll be good going forward. However, I don't think we'll have him beyond the summer. Langas has got amazing potential, but we've seen, 5-6 games of him now?
Yeah.
He's massive, he's rapid, but at the minute he can't have the legacy to get in. So it'd be Davis and Cashin for me.
Davis and Cashin for Nick. Luke,
Cashin he runs through brick walls for you, doesn't he?
He does. Obviously, he was a great 7, and obviously was a great valuable asset for us. That obviously meant that we could get 3 or 4 players. But Luke, Curtis Davis was one name for you. Who's your second name into the hat?
Yeah, my second was Cashin as well. We're not being very controversial here, Nick. We need to start disagreeing here, mate. But yeah, mine was Cashin as well. I think Cashin's time is almost sort of being tainted now because of how the money's been spent from his departure, which is absolutely nothing to do. Obviously, it's not Cashin's fault at all, nothing to do with him. I think a brilliant servant for us. I think, as you said, Matt Clark could potentially get in here if he stays possibly on for next season. If we're in League One, I can't see that happening. But there's potential for Clark sort of down the line. But for me, at the minute, it'd be Davis and Cashin.
Davis and Cashin, we'll get those locked in. Be very interesting to see what people say in regards to the centre halves. There's quite a big of a pool there. Obviously, you've got Langas, as we mentioned, got the great potential signing from Norway. We've also got Matt Clark, who I thought was absolutely phenomenal on loan with us during that season. It'd be very interesting to see what other people say with that one. But on to the right back position now. I've got a really fan favourite with one of these, but I will talk about him in a bit. But we've got from the current season, we've got Kane Wilson and Ryan Nyambe. From the 2021 season, we have, let me get my names, got Andre Wisdom and Nathan Byrne. And then from the 21-22 season, we've also got Nathan Byrne and Festi Ebesele. So before I give my opinion, Nick, what's your opinion on the right back pool?
This is a really tricky one, I think. This could be a bit of a controversial one. My initial reaction, so I'm going to get truthful with my initial reaction, was I'd put Nyambe in there because I think of all the defenders, of all the right backs, he's the best defender that we've had for a very long time. I'd give a massive shout to Nathan Byrne as well. Obviously, he left under a bit of a cloud. Wilson and Ebesele, for me, I've got further forward. I might be a spoiler, but I'd come on to that later. I'd prefer them to be more attacking. So I went Nyambe, but I'd take Byrne.
Interesting. Luke, what are you gone for, mate?
Yeah, Ebesele may or may not feature in my team, not at right back.
Interesting.
For me, I went Nathan Byrne. I wouldn't disagree with you, Nick, at all. That I think defensively, Nyambe is probably quite comfortably the best of the list we've got. But Nathan Byrne, I think, played 40 odd games that season, and I have a real soft spot for Nathan Byrne. I know, kind of the circumstances that he left under. As you said, there is a cloud over it, and it is a dark time for Derby. But I think him personally, I loved him that season. I thought he offered so much going forward. Defensively, yes, not great, but you could kind of build from that with the centre halves that we had at the time. It's not like the team we've got now with brilliant centre halves behind you. He did have a licence to go. I think at times he didn't have a clue what he was going to do himself, so we didn't when he got on the ball. But he was entertaining. That's something we're missing. We're so desperate for something like that at the minute. So yeah, for me, I went Nathan Byrne, but it is probably just because I have a real soft spot for him.
Interesting. Yeah, I will have to go with Nathan Byrne. He was one of my favourite right backs over the recent years, just because of the elements of being able to go forward at pace. He had his height wasn't great at set pieces, but I mean the elements of being able to, and I thought he was really, really underrated one-on-one defender. And I think in terms of what he can offer, Nyambe really struggles going forward. So I'm going to just outvote you, Nick. Unfortunately, I'm going to go Nathan Byrne.
I'll take that. I don't. As I say, I didn't think too much about Byrne. I'm trying to be honest with what I wrote down while I was prepping for this, and not go, because I've asked mates and stuff what they would have said. But yeah, happy with Byrne.
Happy with Byrne. Right. Byrne is locked in for our combined 11. Obviously, let us know what you went with in the comments. Now, central midfielders. This is probably going to be the hardest because we've got 3 to choose from, quite a big pool. There's going to be some overlapping names through the years. So let's go through them. So from the current central midfielders, you've got, let me get them up. Right, there we go. So we've got Halbmine, Thompson, Osborne, Ozo, Armstrong, probably from those. Then you've got the 2021 season. We've got Christian Bielik, Graham Shinney, Max Bird, Sibley, Evans, Mr. Wayne Rooney even featured that season. Benny Beningaby, Jason Knight. And then you've gone into the one or two appearances from the academy players, so I won't bring those up. And then from the 21-22 season, again, Christian Bielik was also in the squad. Max Bird, Ravel Morrison, a name there. Louis Sibley, Louis Watson made a few appearances that season, so we'll include him. Jason Knight and Liam Thompson again. Nick, much tougher one, this one, just because of the amount of names I've had to just reel off there. But yeah, where's your mind at with the 3 that we're going to have in our 4-3-3 midfield?
It is a tougher one. I think Rooney's a cheat. So much as I'd love to sit and name a Derby team with Wayne Rooney in again, I think that's a bit of a cheat. I initially, so again, I'm going to be truthful to what I wrote down initially. I went Jason Knight. I went Ibu for pure character, and another one on character and also I think very underrated football ability. I went Iniesta. That would be my 3, because I think that would allow all of them to get up, and that's 3. I think number 8 up and down, box to boxes, but they can all defend, and they've all got a semblance of ability to be able to do something up the pitch. Yeah, Ibu's footballing ability isn't brilliant, but his ability to win the ball back is phenomenal. And I think when you've got footballers like Knight and Shinnie around him, I was very close to picking Bird in there, not going to lie. That would be my 3. And Ravel Morrison was an absolutely terrific player, but I just don't like the attitude. And if you're looking at a team to get you out of relegation, I don't think he's the man for that kind of job.
Interesting 3 picks there. I mean, as I say, I can't disagree with any of the rationale you've given. I mean, Jason Knight was one of my favourite midfielders, and he is in one of my 3. I also looked at Ibu Adams, so I will include him. But I also looked at Christian Bielik as one, and that's just from the season that he before he got injured. But
the man was made of Weetabix.
He was, but on the ball, sometimes he was just. Again, it was similar to Ozo, which was really frustrating. Christian Bielik, he had all the ability in the world at the time, and he just never was fit, and that's the trouble. That you can never then rely on them. But I think on his day, he could very easily walk into any midfield, and obviously he's doing well at Birmingham, and it's interesting he's actually doing well at centre half. But I mean, Luke, who's your 3? See if we've got any overlapping names and see if we can actually get a combined 3, because it might be a bit difficult. Might have to be a bit of a poll between the 3 of us. What are you going for?
Yeah, it's all from the names that we've mentioned. For me, Bielik just missed out. I think Bielik was kind of George Thorne part 2, and then Ozo's kind of Bielik part 2, and we've been unlucky in that position. I did put Shinnie in. I think it was the 2021 season he won Player of the Year, and he was unbelievable that season. So I did go Graham Shinnie. Ibu, for me, just missed out. I think another season and he probably would be in, not just off character, personality, I think potential leadership as well, but I think he is an underrated footballer. On the ball, we know how good he is off the ball, but for me, the other 2 were Bird and Knight. I think Jason Knight was the first one I picked. I think he was the easiest pick of the 3. And then, it was a toss-up between Ibu and Max Bird. And with all the plaudits that you give Max Bird than yourself, I just had him in.
Interesting. So we have 2 players out of the 3 confirmed just because of the way the voting has gone. So we've got Graham Shinnie and Jason Knight. Right, we've got to come up with a third. I mean, we've had Christian Bielik mentioned, we've had Max Bird mentioned, we've had Ibu Adams mentioned. It's interesting that none of those 3 that we've mentioned are really down as creative midfielders or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, Nick, if you were going to give one more name and give almost a far cry, war cry for, who are you going for?
I'm sticking with Ibu on this.
Sticking with Ibu.
Force of character. Weirdly, for us, has scored quite a lot of goals. He's 4 goals this season. He's second top scorer.
I think so. Yeah.
Which is a bit. I mean, again, it shows how poor we are, but he's actually popped up and scored some goals. I really didn't like the way that Bielik said that he didn't want to play for us because he wanted to get in the Poland squad and he can't play in League One. Now all of a sudden he's playing in League One. I thought that was a bit uncool. And I say the man was made of Weetabix, so you can't rely on him is the problem. Wouldn't mind if it was Bird, but I'm sticking with Ibu, and my reasoning is force of character and the fact that he's actually popped up with a few goals.
Luke, are you going to stick with Bird, and then I'll make the decision, or are you been swayed by Nick's argument for Ibu Adams?
I mean, I'd have been happy to buckle purely because of the amount of EFL fantasy points that Ebu has got me this season. It's about the only positive from the season I can take. But just to put the pressure on you, Cal, I'll stick with Burden and leave that one to you, mate.
Interesting. Max Bird, academy player, come through the system and has really did make that number 8 his own. And then Ebu Adams. I think I'm going to go with, because we've got the midfield creativity, in my opinion, and actual attacking mindset of Jason Knight, and I actually think he's doing really, really well at Bristol in doing so. I will go Ebu Adams, just because then we can have a bit of bite in midfield along with Graham Shinney. And I think Graham Shinney in his peak and Ebu would be absolutely hilarious to watch, because I think that's when we're talking about bite in midfield. I think these two running around with Jason Knight, a little terrier in between them, would be absolutely brilliant to watch. But so I will lock in Ebu Adams. So we've got a midfield of Graham Shinney, Ebu Adams, and Jason Knight in our 4-3-3. So just as a bit of a recap for if you are joining the YouTube stream, we've got Zetterstrom in goal, we've got Fozzie at left back, we've got Cashin and Davis at centre backs, and then we have Nathan Byrne at right back, and then we've just selected Graham Shinney, Ebu Adams, and Jason Knight as our three midfield. I mean, because of they're all box to box and they all kind of run all over the place. I mean, putting them in shoehorning them into a position would be very interesting. But right, we're going to move on to the forwards.
As a quick small aside, one of the reasons that I didn't pick Max Bird was because he once bought a car off me, didn't read the contract properly, and turned up and complained when it was a manual and not an automatic. So, yeah, sorry, Birdie.
And if there's ever a reason to leave someone out, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the one.
Exactly.
I very nearly, for no other reason than I saw 3 years ago today, one of the best goals I've ever seen at Pride Park pop up on my memories went for Ravel Morrison. Do you know the team move? I think it was Barnsley at home, the team move, and he dinks the keeper. And I thought the cheek of him to dink the keeper at the end of that move was ridiculous. So I nearly went Ravel Morrison, but purely just off nostalgia.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree with you there. I mean, that goal, popped up on my timeline, and I mean, if we could see that football now and that confidence, that'd be amazing. But we're going to move on to the wingers, and we'll kind of do them together just for to try and save a bit of time. We'll always be here for all day, so we'll kind of have both wingers in the 4-3-3 or forwards if you want. Now, obviously, because of what the guys alluded to, there might be a name or two that might pop up here that isn't in the ones that I read out by the sounds of it, where their mind's going. But from the current list, and it's not a great big one, but we've got Barkhazen, Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, Caden Jackson, Corey Blackett-Taylor, Marcus Harness, and I will probably just leave it there, because if I go any further, I'll probably want to scream. And then we're looking at the 2021 season. I will put Dwayne Holmes there, just because I think he was actually better out wide than he was in the midfield. And then we're looking at Tom Lawrence, Kamil Jozwiak, Martin Waghorn did play in the front three a little bit. Jordan Iber cannot include. He made one appearance and then never played again. And then Morgan Whittaker played 11 appearances, so I'll include him. Patrick Roberts, I will include. And then from the 21-22 season, again, Tom Lawrence played out there. Malcolm Ebiyoe played out there. And then you're looking at Kamil Jozwiak again. And I'm just seeing if there's another name that maybe played out wide. I actually think Jason Knight played out wide a fair bit. And I'll include Louis Sibley. Go on, we'll include Louis Sibley in that. But yeah, Nick, plethora of wingers. But you did allude to that you might include a name that we have mentioned in one of the previous sets of players. But yeah, where's your mind at with our two wingers? You've got two to choose from.
So my nailed on one is Tom Lawrence. Whatever you think about him, personally, the controversies, etc., what we'd give for a player that can just create something out of nothing. I'm thinking Sheffield United, the 2 goals there, the screamers that he scored. Tom Lawrence gets in for me on the left. My choice on the right was a toss-up between Kane Wilson and Festi Ebosele.
Interesting.
Because they are both frustrated right backs / wing backs that I think are much better as wingers. And I eventually wrote down Kane Wilson because I think that he's just got a bit of something about him. He's got some creativity. His final ball isn't brilliant, but his end product was better than Eberseli. Eberseli was pure pace, and I just thought he was entertaining to watch. But yeah, Kane Wilson, Tom Lawrence are the ones that got on my sheet of paper.
Interesting. So we've got a couple of really good, talented players, very, very different. One very technical, not got a lot of pace, but I mean, some of the goals he scored were phenomenal in Tom Lawrence. And then Kane Wilson, we'll have to. He is one of my favourite players from the current squad, and I hope he does come back fighting fit this season. But Luke, where's your mind at with the two wingers in our front three?
Yeah, so completely agree with you both. Tom Lawrence, after Curtis Davis, probably the second name on the sheet. I think it was one of the easiest ones to put in. Again, think what you want about him personally, but on the pitch, just a player that can come up with a moment, just seem to drift out of a game for an hour, 75 minutes, and pop up and score 2 goals and win you the game. And you're thinking, where the hell's that come from? I think it was a season we went down, the 21-22, he got 11, 12 goals that season. And I thought it was brilliant. So yeah, Tom Lawrence walked in, and I went Eberseli on the right. Is it more because of the fact that I didn't think of Wilson playing out wide? Possibly. that might have been a factor. But again, I think it possibly just comes from a place of desperation, of just wanting to see a winger get at someone. Just hit a 5-yard touch round him and just get at him. I think of the Hull game at home where we trounced them, and Eberseli was unplayable that night. He was unbelievable off the right.
His finish there was banging, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it was. You're not wrong about his finishing using technical ability. It left a lot to be desired, but that night he found something. So yeah, I went Eberseli on the right and Tom Lawrence on the left.
Interesting. Yeah. So in my two, I had Tom Lawrence also. I think he does walk in from the 3 squads we've got, that clear, talented winger that we are missing. And then my one, similar for kind of a combination of what you guys said with the feet and the impact that he had, but for quite different reasons. I actually went with Malcolm Ebiowei, and don't get me wrong, I think the way he left and the way he kind of thought himself bigger than ourselves, and to be fair, I don't blame him with where obviously we ended up going down. He's obviously gone off to Palace, but I mean, just the impact he had as an academy player, and everyone during that season really got behind, especially at Pride Park. I mean, he was nutmegging players left, right, and centre, similar to what we see from Kane Wilson. And I mean, it's an argument for probably the same player, but different eras in terms of what they did and the impact they had. But yeah, I mean, LBO is probably my pick. So we've got a bit of a conundrum here, guys, with one winger. I mean, we've got 3 names. Nick, are you going to stick with, or are you going to twist with mine or Luke's?
Stick with Kane Wilson. You said Kane Wilson's one of your favourite players anyway. You should be easy to convince. Easy here. I actually wrote a 3-5-2 with Wilson and Eberseli as my wing backs. So again, I'm not going to argue if you want to go Eberseli. I'm not even entertaining Ebiowei, unfortunately. Sorry.
What would be the reason for that?
I don't think he impacted enough. And I think then you've got 2 wingers with no pace.
Interesting.
Is your problem. You've got 2 wingers that are both tricky, but they play inverted on the wrong side, can't beat a man with pace. At least having Wilson or Eberseli, you've got that option on one side, Lawrence on the other, and we agree Lawrence is locked in. So I'm sticking Wilson. I'll accept Eberseli.
Interesting. Luke, sticking or twisting?
I've got to stick with Eberseli, I think. I've got to stick
with
Eberseli. For me,
Right.
Ebiowei, I think technically the best of the 3 is Ebiowei quite comfortably.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with you, Nick. I think he did have an impact when he came in, possibly not a massive impact, and I just don't think he played enough for us. I don't think he played enough. I think he played maybe 15. I had a look. I think maybe 15, 16 games.
Yeah, that was it.
I think if he'd have stayed another season, I think he's another one where you go Davis, Lawrence, Ebiowei, and then you deal with the rest and fit them all in. I think technically comfortably the best. But yeah, for me, For me, I'd go Ebosele, and I'll leave the headache with you, Cal. All the best.
Oh, right. Again, yeah, I think Nick did bring it up. I will go with Kane Wilson. We'll lock Kane Wilson because I also do think Kane Wilson, when he does come back from injury, should play out wide because he will bring 10 times the amount of danger than probably all of our other wingers combined currently. So, yeah, we'll lock in Kane Wilson. So we've got Lawrence and Kane Wilson on the wings. Right. Target number 9, if you want to call it a target number 9, some of the ones we've had over the last few years have been interesting, especially with these three squads. But right, Kemar Roof from the current, yes, I will include him. Yes, he's just joined, but he is a name. It is one to watch. Jerry Yates and Salverson. I won't include Connor Washington because I don't even think he's registered. And then Dejan Brown from the current squad. From the 2021 squad, you got Colin Kazim-Richards, Jack Marriott, just before he moved on. Martin Waghorn, again, I will include him. Lee Gregory and Jack Stretton, if I'm not missed anyone. And then the 21-22 season, you're looking at Colin Kazim-Richards, Jack Stretton, Luke Plange. I won't include Sibilski or Barkovic just because of the amount of appearances they made. But yeah, right, Nick. Where's your thoughts out? Who's going to be our target man or at least striker in whatever form you think they should fit?
It's slim pickings, but for me, it can only be King Kazim. Again, force of character, people that I'd want in the trenches in a relegation dogfight did pop up with the odd goal, the absolute howitzer against Forest in the COVID season. Maybe in a year's time, we'll be talking about Salverson. But I feel really sorry for Salverson because he's getting no service. How are you meant to judge a player? We were all really excited when he came in. Finally, big target man, number 9, 0 service, scored the header, which proves that he can do it. I think Yates is decent in a 2. I like Yates in a 2. Not a solo striker. So on the slim pickings, Colin Kazim-Richards is a fairly shoe-in for me in this formation.
Interesting. Luke, what's your thoughts?
I'm exactly the same. I mean, we've not got a lot to pick from, really, if we're being honest. I'm the same as Nick. I think Salverson's got every chance of being sort of that next cult hero striker, probably since Kazim-Richards. I think in a system that suits him, he'll get you goals. I just don't think we've seen that yet. I think Yates has been wasted at the club. I think we could have got more out of him, either, as you said, Nick, playing him in a 2 or possibly playing him off a striker. As a sole striker, it couldn't be further away from a game that suits him. So from this season, I wouldn't really have any option. But Kazim-Richards, for me, was another simple one. I think when he came in as well for the age he was, he always seemed to be available. I know he missed games here and there, but he played a lot of games for us over them 2 seasons.
We were also Kazim-Richards' best ever. It was his best ever goals to games ratio in his career.
Yeah.
It was,
yeah. And I think ability aside, I think ability is comfortably the best out of that bunch, but I think ability aside, he bought into Derby, which was a big thing at that time as well with the things we were going through. And maybe that does more just sort of pull on the heartstrings instead of the eye test. But yeah, I went Kazim-Richards.
I'm happy to lock him in. Won't even entertain anything else. I mean, Salverson will probably would come into my 11, but as you say, very early on in his tenure to stick him in above what was an informed Colin Kazim-Richards during that season. It was just a real shame that we didn't really get to see him live. Obviously, it was behind the closed doors season that he really thrived. So, yeah, that does complete our combined 11. So we have Jakob Vidal-Zetterstrom between the sticks. We have Fozzie at left back. We have Cashin and Davis at centre halves. Nathan Byrne at right back. Graham Shinney, Ibu Adams, Jason Knight in central midfield. Kane Wilson, who is now been pushed forward to be on the right. And then Tom Lawrence on the left. And then Colin Kazim-Richards leading the line up top. Now, obviously, at the start of the show, we were looking at how many would actually make it from the current squad that Eustace has got to play from within our combined 11 from these 3 squads. I mean, Zetterstrom is number 1. You've then got Craig Fozzie, number 2. Then you're looking at Ibu Adams, number 3, and Kane Wilson, number 4. So we have 4 from the current squad making our combined 11 between me, Nick, and Luke. Be interesting to see what everyone else thinks of that. If anyone disagrees, please do let us know. Let us know who you'd have. And really, it'll be very, very interesting to see how the rest of the squad play out. Because, I mean, Eustace has got his work cut out with this, so we will wait and see. So, yeah, what we'll do now is we will look ahead to Blackburn. But first, we have from the 4,000 Hole podcast, we have a little preview, just looking ahead to Saturday and just giving us a bit of insight into Blackburn, a Eustace Blackburn that used to be with him, but now with us. So it'll be very interesting going up against his former side. But let's see what they have to say.
Hi there, it's Ian Herbert, one of the hosts of the 4,000 Holes podcast, answering some questions for Rams Talk. How have Rovers performed this season? It's been an unusual season. I think at the beginning of it, many of us would have expected Rovers to be struggling in the bottom half, probably looking over our shoulders at relegation, but it's not turned out to be that way. We got off to a decent start and we've managed to hold on to the coattails of the teams in the playoffs, and then had a decent run which took us into the playoffs a few weeks ago until the manager left, which is an interesting situation. So yeah, I think Rovers outperforming expectations. The crux now is whether we can continue to do so. Our best players are probably the midfield access of Sondre Tronstad and Lewis Travis, who sit in front of the back four and have provided some welcome solidity to our defence in the early part of this season. Our current problem is that Travis is just coming back from injury, although he seems to have hit the ground running, but Tronstad is still out. I'm not sure that he'll be back ready for the Derby game on the 8th of March, but if it is, that will be terrifically helpful. Up front, Maktar Gay has come into his own in the last few weeks. He had a real cathartic moment at West Bromwich Albion where he scored a couple of great goals. One, a volley, sort of hit the ball from behind him, through the goalkeeper almost, I'd say. And then took one down inside the 6-yard box and slotted it home, and that seems to have done wonders for his confidence. So I think Gay up front is probably our biggest threat right now. So Maktar Gay up front definitely is the target man. Lewis Travis, the skipper, holding everything together in midfield. He's been a star performer, and I have to say at the back as well, Danny Bart has provided some very, very calming influence in that central defence, and Dominic Hyam alongside him has benefited hugely. Our biggest weaknesses, I think, are our lack of creativity, and we're not cutthroat in front of goal. We don't seem really to have a way of unlocking a packed defence. We're somewhat predictable, I think, when we get into the last third. But the big unknown now is with the new manager coming in. Valerian Ismail has a style of playing, shall we say, which we understand is more direct. So our huge centre-forward Maktar Gay might be pleased that he's going to get some service plonked onto his head. But it's in midfield where we've struggled really. I think we looked to Todd Cantwell to perhaps provide some of that creativity, and to be fair to him, he's flitted in and out of games, but he's not really had the enduring impact that many Rovers fans hoped. But maybe on the 8th of March, that will be his day. It's going to be an interesting game. I think we've sold out our full allocation, so there'll be plenty of Rovers representation in Pride Park. I think it's going to be quite a raucous atmosphere, and I'm sure that the Derby fans will be keen to show their endorsement of John Eustace, and Rovers fans will be keen to pass on their verdict about him leaving. So I think it's all set up for an absolute cracker. I've got to back us to beat Derby, haven't I? I really have to. So I'm going to go for 2-1 Rovers. If we can nick it at the end and just sort of let John have some hope and then snatch it away right at the end, that would probably be the sweetest, because that's pretty much what he did to us back in February. So yeah, 2-1 Rovers.
Well, a little bit of a battle cry there. Looking ahead to Saturday, massive thank you to the 4,000 Hole podcast for sending us over that, and good luck ahead of the Saturday. Now, before Jake has a go at me for how long this podcast is going to be midweek, right, Nick, where are you at in terms of this Saturday? What's your score prediction if we are going to get on the scoreboard, which Oh God, that'll be interesting if you think that. But yeah, what's your score prediction? If we do score, who's your scorers?
They're a triggered little bunch, aren't they? Up there. I'm worried because they have essentially their entire home season ticket base turning up, sort of all 3,000 of them. Their squad is going to be right up for it. We are lower than a snake's belly. I'm trying to be optimistic and a fan, but I think we're going to lose 2-0 personally. I don't want that, but I can't see where the goal's coming from for us. He says they're not cutthroat. I still think they're probably going to have enough. And I just worry about how fired up their squad is going to be, their players are going to be, their fans are going to be at the state that we're in. So that's where I'm at.
2-0 loss, Luke. Give me a bit of optimism. What are you going for, pal?
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive game for them. That's what concerns me. It's a huge game for them, not just the John Eustace kind of situation, but just to keep their playoff hopes alive as well. To be honest, when he said about, they've got Big Val, they go direct, that doesn't concern me defensively. I'm not concerned about us at all, really. I just cannot see where we're going to get a goal from. But, Cal, it's the hope that kills you, mate. 1-0 Derby win. Salverson winner.
Salverson winner for Luke. I will stick with my prediction. I will go 1-1. I don't think we're going to get all 3 points, and I will. Oh, who do I get to get the goal? We'll go Ibu Adams, just because I love his. I want to see his smile again. I've missed that smile. I don't think he's had too much to smile about, but yeah, let's hopefully he gets that back on his face and hopefully a positive result Saturday. But right, that's come to the end of the podcast. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. Please give us a 5-star rating. Spotify, Apple Pod, you know by now where we are. RamsTalk Podcast on all socials. If you please give us your combined 11s from tonight's episode, we would love to see what you guys went with. If you guys disagree, please do. If you did agree with us, please let us know. See if we were actually any good at doing this thing, and if you'd liked it, we'll bring it back for a future episode. But Nick, it's been and Luke, it's been an absolute pleasure. But that's goodbye from me.
I really hope I'm wrong with my prediction. Let's try and keep the faith. It's goodbye from me.
Yeah, I wish the debut could have been in happier circumstances, lads, but keep the faith. It'll come. Whether this year or in 10, it'll come. It's goodbye from me.
Take care, guys. Have a good week, everyone, and look ahead to Saturday. Blackburn, massive game.